Hello, everyone. Welcome once again for joining us. I'm Adam Fishman, the Executive Director of American Friends of Likud. And today on our exclusive Insiders briefing, we have the distinct honor and pleasure of our very good friend, member of Knesset, Yoav Galant, who is joining us from his home here in Israel. I'm going to turn it over to Steve Goldberg, our president, club member, and board member in Los Angeles, to officially introduce him, and then we will get to Yoav's briefing and to all of our Q&A in the time that we have with him. Steve?
Okay. Thanks, Adam. Yoav Galant has spent his entire adult life defending and representing the state of Israel. He spent 35 years in the IDF. He's a major general in the reserves now, and he had commands all over the country and the most serious level possible. He then went into politics about 7 years ago, and he has had 3 different ministries, including construction, immigration and absorption, and education. He's a member of the Likud. We've had him before, and it is an honor to have him. And with that, Yoav, please begin your presentation before we begin peppering you with questions.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, all of the friends of the Likud. I'm happy and honored to have this opportunity to speak in front of you via the Zoom. With your permission, I will speak briefly and give you the floor to ask questions, because I'm sure that through the questions we will go over the different subjects that are on the topics in the Israeli present life. Now, one thing we have to remember and to understand every day here in Israel, over there in the United States, and all over the world. In South Africa, I heard some people are joining us from South Africa. The existence of the state of Israel is not something that is, I would say, natural and goes with no effort. We have to work very hard in order to preserve the security and the defense of the state of Israel. And this is the platform that all the other issues stand on top of it. Now, looking at the situation on the Israeli borders and Judah and Samaria, one that will look on the situation may say, well, basically comparing to different ages, few years ago, or a couple of or dozens of years ago, the situation now is pretty calm, because there is no fight over Gaza or Lebanon or on the eastern and the southern border, where we have a peace agreement with the Jordanians and Egyptians. So it's fine, it's okay. But let me say it in a very simple way. There is a sheet storm blowing from Iran over the Middle East. And the situation is that Iran is sending its arms all over. And actually, Iran is controlling Lebanon via the Hezbollah. Has some, I would say, some degree of control over Iraq, because of the majority of the Sunni world, the Sunni people in Iraq, and of course, doing a major effort to take over Syria. And the distance between Tel Aviv and Tehran is something like 1,500 kilometers, 1,000 miles. This is close to the distance between Warsaw and Moscow, between Berlin and Moscow, actually. And the question is, of course, what is it that the Iranians have to do here in the state of Israel, so close to our borders? And the answer is very simple. Iran is encouraging a war of attrition between Israel and its neighbors, Lebanon, Judah and Samaria. I mean, it's part of Israel, but I'm speaking about those dissidents that are fighting us, Hamas, and the PIJ and others, and they are trying to do their best in order to create a war of attrition between Israel and its neighbors. At the same time, to gain enough power and enough time by using this period in order to create weapons of mass destruction and a strong economy. Unfortunately, best period we had is already behind us, because with the administration in the United States, we joined forces, because the first serious period that the Iranians have to take in account what the Western world is doing, well, when the sanctions were imposed over Iran in one hand, and Israel was acting its own technology systems and intelligence methods against Iran, and that broke them on their knees. But unfortunately, we are seeing now taking place in Vienna. It's not in favor of us and in favor of the world, and I'm very worried about the development over there, because Iran has the capability to reach fissile materials for few nuclear bombs within, I would say, a year or so. And the problem with the agreement, the last one, and I guess also with the future coming one, the problem is that according to the agreement, within several years, they will have enough fissile materials. And the second problem is that you cannot inspect unless they want you to inspect a certain area. If you want to inspect other places, this is not according to the agreement. That's a very bad situation. And of course, we have the problem that we are looking and inspecting only one link of this chain, and this is the manufacturing of fissile material, but not the missiles and not the apparatus to initiate those fissile materials. So this is a major issue. And second, we see very well that Iran is connected to any kind of terror action here in the Middle East, and especially in Israel, meaning that they are supporting Hezbollah, they are supporting Hamas, they recruit people for helping to be part of it, no matter that these are Sunni organizations, and Iran is a Shia country, but overall, they are doing anything they can in order to sabotage the movement or the smooth movement of the state of Israel. And you know, about a year ago, a little bit less than that, we had this operation in Gaza, and you could have seen that Hamas and others are using the different social media in order to initiate riots and problems over Israel through the different Negev, through the local people in some other areas, and this is all part of the direct approach that Iran is using in order to include those issues. So I believe that unfortunately, if Israel will go into war for some reason, and I hope it won't happen in the future or next we will find out fighting against Hezbollah and maybe forces from Syria and Gaza, all and all together. And let me remind you, this Iran. So Iran will benefit out of this war and this battle because they're in very remote area, 1,000 miles away, and at the same time they are trying to make Israel paying the price for this reason. And basically the asymmetric situation where the Israeli home front exposed to Iranian agents in Lebanon, in Gaza, in other, and at the same time, Iran, 1,000 miles away from Israel, this is a very problematic situation. And therefore, I believe that we have to strengthen the relationship and the connection and the alignment between Israel and the United States. This is essential for the future as well, because if they will know that this is something, a coalition that they don't want to bother with the United States, because they don't want to bother with Israel, because the United States is backing us seriously, I think this is something that can stabilize future situation if wars come to wars. So that's basically the situation, but I will take any question you would like. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to start, and it's a question that's come from the president of the American Friends of Likud, Jerry Platt, and it has to do with the relationship with the United States. The news is that the United States has recently just relieved sanctions in exchange for nothing, just to induce Iran to come back to negotiate. And it looks very close to a terrible deal about to go into effect with Iran. We have a prime minister of Israel who's part of what appears to be a weak government, and you have a United States president and administration that seems bent on appeasing Iran. You talk about the importance of showing the United States backing Israel. What do you think the Israeli government should do and can do to try to convince the United States not to appease Iran? You know, we know there was a promise not to make noise, not to be out loud. You know, Netanyahu came and spoke to Congress and it was considered controversial. And apparently there was a promise to keep all the disagreements private. Do you think that's still practical? And, you know, again, what would your plan be to try to get the United States to back Israel and not sign such a terrible deal with Iran?
Well, unfortunately, you know, we have a limited influence in the United States. It's of course used to be in different areas. It used to be a little bit different, but basically, say that the situation with this government, with the prime minister, with the minister of foreign affairs, and also some new people in major positions in Israel, the situation is weaker than it was in the past. And in some way, you can say that a call from prime minister office to the White House is an unrecognized number in many ways, because the connections are not similar to those that Bibi Netanyahu had, or Sharon, or even Olmert and Peres and Rabin. This is a different situation, and I guess the Americans understand that very well. But we support and understand that this is the decision of the American people. Now, I think that two grave mistakes had been done by the government of Israel. The first one is the obligation they took upon themselves not to criticize the American administration or, of course, the American president regarding the issue of the agreement with Iran. And this is, of course, a major tool we lost because the president, any president in democratic country, but definitely in the United States, the president and the governments and the Capitol Hill gain power from the people. And if you influence the people of the United States, it will have some effect on the leaders. So this is something that we dismantle out of this capability with no reason. And the second issue, of course, is there was a secret understanding that Israel will coordinate any kind of activity against Iran with the United States. Well, we appreciate very much the United States. We know how dear and how important are the relationship for us, and I hope that also for the states. But this is a sovereign, independent country, and we have to take care of our own interest. And in some places, we have to make our own decisions. And let me say this way, maybe on some issues, the American administration wouldn't like to know in advance. That's basically the idea. So I think that we are not running it in Israel on the proper way, but hopefully we will be back on power and try to improve the situation.
There has been news recently that at least some of the senators in the United States are trying to say that they're going to challenge any new agreement. Do you believe that the Israeli government should be appealing to those senators and supporting their doing that, even if it looks like it's disagreeing with the president of the United States?
I think that when it comes to a major essential interest of the security of Israel and looking on the Iranian issue, this is the future of Israel, the existence of Israel, and in many ways the existence of the Jewish people. You cannot let the Iranians have the capability to possess weapons of mass destruction, especially not nuclear weapons, because they are saying time and again, we will destroy the state of Israel. And our lessons from our history and also from the international history is that we have to take them very seriously. Take them seriously. Do not ignore them. Look at if they say they mean. So any effort that is will work to improve our options in order to avoid nuclear weapons from Iran is possible. And I hope that the administration will do anything necessary in the current time against Iran. And it happened. The Iranians are so close to a nuclear weapon, the situation that I would say, at least in Israel, it is not the proper government to deal with this challenge. That's the problem.
Do you think the signal from the United States of support can be taken as seriously after what happened with Afghanistan? Do you trust a reassurance from the United States after what happened in Afghanistan? And do you think your enemies now take the United States less seriously after the abandonment of Afghanistan?
let me put it this way. I think that most of the world have seen what happened in Afghanistan was not calculated properly, and the balance between the powers was not translated on the right way to the situation on the ground. And I'm not going to criticize the United States or its power. I know that the American different branches of the forces. They are all excellent people, and I'm sure that there was some mistakes, some misunderstanding, and bad calculation of the situation. Otherwise, this is as an ex-soldier, I can tell you that you have to take under consideration the worst case scenario all the time. Hopefully it won't happen, but you cannot give it 0%. You have to be prepared. So if you plan that this withdrawal will take 6 months, you have to assume that it will take also 6 days. And then what happened? And there was not a plan B. So we are very lucky that the United States is so powerful and the US Air Force is so strong. So you were able to rescue most of your people. But looking on the Middle East, I would say that in many ways, the value of the Israeli deterrence is connected this way or another to the American performances. So if you kill Osama bin Laden or Baghdadi or Soleimani, then our neighbors understand very well that this is not a good deal to fight Israel or to fight the United States or to work against them. But if something happened like it happened in Afghanistan, that doesn't give too much to, I would say, the value of the American share is dropping down, and we are connected to this value in the state of Israel. Therefore, we in Israel pray at the same time, not only for the success of Israel, but also we can say with a loud voice, God bless America, because we need and want America to be strong. First of all, because of America, you are our best friend and allies. But second, because of the state of Israel. This is our interest, and there is only one country in the world which we share not only interest, but also values. So we share values and interest with the United States of America. And of course, there is always some friction, but there is no other country, not in Europe, not elsewhere, that we share values and interest with.
Just recently, actually, the second reading of the draft bill, I believe, was passed in the Knesset 51-48, and you were quoted as saying, actually, you said it in the plenum in the Knesset that it would do more harm than good to draft people who do not want to serve. Now the truth is, this has been a discussion not only with respect to the draft bill, but also with respect to mandatory conscription in general, and that we're living in a different generation now of those who are going into the IDF. Can you expand on what you were thinking with respect to that in the draft bill?
Yes. Let me put it this way. First of all, I have enough self-confidence after serving 35 years in the army that no one will blame me for running from the battlefield, okay, or not joining the forces in the war. So I think that I need to be realistic, and if someone is thinking that we will create a law and according to this law, ultra-Orthodox Jews will join the Israeli forces with no hesitation and will work according to the law, this is a miscalculation. Those people represent our grandparents when they were in Eastern Europe or in North Africa or wherever, and those people were willing to sacrifice their lives if they think that this was something needed in order to support their belief, tradition, and the Jewish culture, the Jewish, and of course protecting the values of the Jewish people. And it's well known all over the world, and of course it's well known to the Jews. Now, if you want to fight internally, the best way is to create rules and try to do it brute force. If you want to go forward, you have to convince them, you have to deal with them, you have to try to bridge those between the ultra-Orthodox Jews that are not serving in the military for the last 74 years, not a year and not a month, 74 years since the beginning of Israel. But the numbers were, of course, different when Ben-Gurion established status quo, and they are different now. Now, if you want to bridge, it won't take a year and not 2 years. And this is not only a political law. You have to create conversations, to convince them, to give them the right conditions, and to help them. We tried to do it and succeeded, I would say, partly when we recruit a few battalions and some other ultra-Orthodox Jews to the IDF, and it was pretty good at the time when I was running those issues in the military. And I think this is the right way to deal with it. Otherwise, we will stay with the law and with no performance in the military. This is the reason I said we have to do it under understanding. That's basically what it is.
A question from Nira Abramowitz about the Abraham Accords. For those of us who are not happy with the change of administrations, either in Israel or the United States, have those changes weakened the Abraham Accords? Or are they proceeding the way they should, or has there been a problem because of the change in governments in both countries?
I can say that all of in the United States, in Israel, have to bless and thank President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu for creating those peace agreements, because this is the first time, and it was a very successful attempt that we were able to explain the world and the Arab world, and of course the Palestinians here, that a peace agreement with an Arab country or Muslim country do not have to go through the PLO or Hamas. We can make our peace agreements with the Gulf states, with Morocco, and in the future, I believe, with Saudi Arabia and others. And at the same time, we have some problems with the Palestinians. So this is a major issue. I'm pretty sure that any reasonable leader in the United States, in Europe, in Israel, and of course in the Gulf, will appreciate very much the value of those agreements, and will not neglect them and will not push them to the corner. And because people in the Gulf states, in Abu Dhabi and in Bahrain, in other places, they appreciate Israel, the state of Israel, the Israeli technology, the startup nation. They appreciate it very much, and basically they admire the capabilities of Israel. Therefore, the connections are getting stronger and stronger every day. Unfortunately, those who created those agreements didn't have the patch to enjoy them. But in the future, let's hope that they will remain or come again to power and will be able to go forward. But I think this is an effect that will be very difficult to take back.
Speaking of the future and regaining power, I want to, with the time that we have left, I do want to move to the political question that is on everybody's mind with respect to the Likud and the strength of the Likud right now. There's always reports of infighting, and of course, the various members of the coalition, what I've called a coalition that is in opposition to itself, who have jumped from the Likud to form their own parties. So what is the strength of the current Likud as it stands right now? And then the next follow-up question after that is, what are the next steps that you see for the Likud, which is clearly the largest, without question, it's the largest party, a representative party in Israel, to regain the seat of government?
Well, let me put it this way. The Likud tradition, which I believe is in the Israeli atmosphere is unique and very important, is that the basic supporter of the Likud all over Israel is saluting the flag of Israel and saluting the flag of the leader of the Likud as far as this leader is in position. And the only one that can change it is basically the leader itself. So if Bibi wants to make a deal with the Attorney General or with others, the Likud will support him. If he would like to stay in power, we first of all encourage that, and second, we understand and believe that this is the right thing for the Likud. But human nature is not positive by creation, not all the time, and people are competing each other to gain power in the Likud. So I believe that first of all, the Likud will stay solid and united, even if Netanyahu will decide to resign. Hopefully, he will not. Hopefully, he will stay in power. But if, we respect also his personal life, his family, and his decisions. It's up to him. He's a great leader, but it's up to him. So if he will decide that, I think that the sequence in the Likud will go first of all to this center of Likud that holds something like 3 or 4, and after deciding on a temporary chairman of the Likud, then there will be a free election in the Likud itself, and what you call primaries, and eventually we will have a new leader. But first of all, I hope it will last for a longer time than some people in the coalition of nowadays would like, and I think that this is a major issue. Now, speaking about the second phase question, I would say that the government in Israel nowadays is a very weird government, not because of their opinion, but because of the configuration. First of all, this is the first time that the prime minister in Israel do not have a majority of his party in the government. Not speaking about the Knesset, on the government. Usually if you have 25 ministers, 13 are from the Likud or in the past from Avodah or whatever, because you need this majority in your own cabinet. Second, this is like 8 horses, each one of them is pulling to another direction. And the major problem is that the government is an hostage of the Islamic branch of the Muslim Brothers who stays in Israel, and they decide upon Zionist and defense issues, which is impossible. And when I'm saying they decide, part of the decision is that the Prime Minister and others have to take under consideration what will be their approach or their decision if an issue will come to the cabinet. So instead of bringing this issue, which is maybe controversial with them, to the cabinet, they just don't bring it. So I cannot accept, as one that fought on the Negev to defend the people in the south, I cannot accept the assumption that Mansour Abbas is the leader and the ruler of the Negev, and he will decide if we are able to plant a tree or to build a house. This is impossible, but this is the situation right now. And I believe 80% of the population, maybe 99% of the Jews do not accept this situation.
Well, I want to say that all of us do share your views, and we look forward, hopefully, to regaining power, the real right to regaining power sooner rather than later, whatever former Prime Minister Netanyahu decides to do. And we appreciate you taking the time for us tonight. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you when we do come back to Israel. Our current plans, which had been for February, have now been pushed off probably to May or June, but we look forward to seeing you and visiting with you in the Knesset, and who knows, maybe even by that time, well, maybe not by that time, but certainly maybe by the end of this year, perhaps back in the seat of government. And so we want to thank you again. I want to thank Steve for helping us out, moderating for all the questions as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, all the participants. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and you are very welcome. We are looking forward to see you next year in Jerusalem.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
Everybody, stay healthy, stay safe. Bye-bye.